much money and chasing your dreams. Easy beat, turn the place, everything. Marriage and relationships are not about rings. Trying to raise a family is so insane. He tries to keep politics off the brain, but sending in the questions he might just scream. Business and entrepreneurship is his thing. There is society, then there is reality.
That's my dad. That's my dad.
Welcome. I am BBT. And you can ask me anything. How y'all doing today? I'm going to jump right into it. Long, busy day. Actually, not that busy, but I got things to do. Want to go to the gym. Got to take my son to basketball practice. I need to grab something to eat. And I don't know how long this show is going to be because I want to provide my reactions to a video that my wife sent me. Because what she's getting into is just a lot of what's next. Things like trust, things like how to make money in real estate, things like she's into crypto and certain things like that. So I want to provide my reactions to the long video. I'm not sure I'm going to get through the whole thing, but I want to share my thoughts on that. So let's jump right into the show. Let's start off by talking about the tweets of the day. First tweet, Elon Musk again. Twitter's current laws and peasant systems. I talked about this before. What I wanted to add was, I'm sorry, this is an old one. Let's go to the next one. Bishop Talbot Swan, we should have affirmative action as long as we had slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, profiling, mass incarceration, brutalization, and dehumanization of Black people. So just be patient. We have about 350 years to go. Yeah. It's been a lot going on with us Black folks, especially Black men being taken out the homes. One of the best books I've read in the last probably 5 years was the new Jim Crow. It really delves a little deeper into the concept of mass incarceration, what it all really means. Definitely check out that book if you haven't. It's powerful. You don't really look at it like that because the way how the media spins it, they deserve to be in jail and this and that. But when you kind of dig a little deeper, it's much more deeper than that. So definitely check that out. But we've gone through a lot and it's our time. But we got to get through the BS out here of destroying each other. We got to understand that, yes, the past was the past. We were put in a lot of bad situations, but how to get out of it and build a better tomorrow, we got to work together. So anyway, next tweet. This is Liar Cohen, one of the biggest executives in hip hop. After he admitted opioids was a huge problem, he was asked if it's hypocritical that he signs Black rappers who promote it. He answered, I got people to feed. I got a business to run. He's white, but also you see the word. So yeah, I talked about this before where one of the big gripes with Ye was that he was talking about the fact that the execs were profiting off of our misery, off of our destruction. And then when this guy, who's a big time executive, was asked a direct question, if you know it's a problem, why are you promoting this? And he said, I got a family to feed. So there you have it. That's how it is. That's how we're viewed upon. If we can capitalize, we will, no matter what. So next tweet. Elon Musk just announced that you can purchase a blue check mark on Twitter for $8. The woke journalists are throwing a tantrum because they can no longer act superior to us peasants. So this is where I thought the first tweet was. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely pushback on Elon Musk, and he's said it over and over again. It is what it is. It's $8. And I also read that it's more benefits to it. You get like preferred treatment on certain things with your fee that you're paying on a month-to-month basis. So it ain't just like you're paying for the check mark, you're paying for other benefits that's going to give you certain perks and privileges being on Twitter. And we pay for other things. I don't see why there's such a big pushback. Twitter is a business and it's a revenue opportunity for them. And it's a big desire for people. And most of these people have the money. I think right now it's just as popular to push back and say you're not going to do it, you don't like it. But I guarantee you, in a couple months, you're going to hear about this. You're going to have another revenue stream coming in with so many people paying for that blue check mark. So next week, exclusive, Dan Snyder hires Bank of America to sell the Washington Commanders. So if you are a Washington Redskin fan, you understand the misery that we've experienced with Mr. Dan Snyder. And apparently it seems like they finally getting to him and he's ready to let it go. So hopefully someone that looks like me will have the opportunity to buy the team, because I think the NFL definitely needs to have a black NFL owner. So there go the tweets. Tweets for the day, tweets for the day, tweets for the day. So I'm gonna jump right into this video. So this video, let me share my screen. This video, like I said, was sent to me by my wife. It goes into a bunch of different topics. Let's see how it shows up. It's called Becoming a 9-to-5 Millionaire, Secrets of the Wealthy and Real Estate Investor. God, I can't talk today. By Earn Your Leisure. So I've heard about Earn Your Leisure before. To be totally honest with you all, I don't get caught up into a lot of different things. I got to hear it and then really embrace it before I start to follow and subscribe to that thing, whatever it may be. Because I'm the type of person, when I was coming up, I pretty much tried any and everything, right? I spent $20,000 on Trump University. I bought the stock investing platform, Invest Tools, to learn how to buy stocks and options. And they were pretty good. So I've done a lot. I've bought so many books. I've studied so many individuals. And I'm not going to say it's all for naught, but I got burned by a lot of different things. So I'm always a little skeptical when I hear someone pushing a certain concept. So for me, I take it on a case by case basis. I really listen, and I listen and I'll hear, okay, are they really talking truth, or are they talking theory, or are they talking real things that they've done? And if they've done these things, break it down. How did you do it? Because it's easy to say, hey, I bought this, I bought that. How did you buy it? Because I'm a person, and let me give you a couple quick fun facts for me before I jump into this video or this audio of this video. You know, by the time I was 20, let's see, that had to been probably about 28, 29. I own like 6, 7 properties. Some of them I was able to figure out ways, because I didn't have a lot of money. I figured out ways to get in with no money down. I was thinking I was buying in up and coming communities, because that was what was being promoted. These are new communities in up and coming areas. I figured out ways, like I said, to not only get the properties with no money down, because I was the real estate agent, I was getting money in lump sums because I was the actual agent on the property. So I was getting properties for no money down. I was I was getting the commission off of the sale of the properties. So I was doing a lot of things, by definition, right, because everything I was reading, the majority of the challenge with real estate is how you going to get the money to do it. And I was not only getting the money, I was getting in the deals, being creative, and I was getting money on the back end. I was getting them not only with no money down, but they were covering my closing costs. I was getting the commission. So I was thinking I'm doing all the right thing. But 07, 08 come, and boom, all of that shit goes to shit. And they don't talk about that part where before that, even before, everything with the shit with the mortgage collapse, the landlord part, man, that shit was insane. I hated being a landlord. And the crazy part, I didn't have a lot of bad tenants, but it was like they would call you for this. Oh, I'm having problems. I can't pay this time. Now I got to figure out ways to do this and this and that. And my whole experience with real estate taught me a lot. Whereas I said that I would get back into real estate only if I could pay cash, and only I would do it in a commercial basis, because it's not enough spread for me to do it off of one single property. And you have to also realize property values have gone up so much significantly that the deals that your parents and parents were getting, uh, they're not the same. And that's not to say that there aren't opportunities to make money buying real estate, and you'll hear a little bit in this video. I'm just saying from my experience, I played the game and it beat me down. And I'm not saying I did everything perfectly. I'm just letting you know I did it. And I didn't have a front man. When I was in the real estate world, was taking the investment courses in the Trump University, doing different things. I knew people that had 100, 150, 200 properties. And you talk to these people a couple years later, they didn't have any. So this is not just me talking from my personal experience. This is me watching and having relationships with others. Real estate is a tough, 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 tough game. And I'm not saying this to discourage you, but before you do it, ask the hows and the why. How did they do it? How did you get that financing? How did you get that down payment? A lot of people, man, they do a lot of shisty things and they have that money. When you have that money, um, it's a lot more you can do. But when you're trying to figure out a way to get the money, and then once you get the money, you're trying to figure a way to fix it up, and then you're trying to figure out a way to manage the tenants, and then you're trying to figure out this and that and this and this and that. Eventually, it beats you up. You stress the hell out, and then if for whatever reason you made a bad bet, it could take you out because one bad real estate purchase is going to tear your credit apart, and that's going to affect you in so many things moving forward. So, anyway, I'm sorry if I'm a gloom and doomer when it comes to real estate. I'm just telling you the truth from my experience and what I've seen. So, anyway, let's jump into this video. Wait, before I do, because I'm gonna fast forward some of this and I'm gonna go into about 24 minutes in. The video is an hour, 28 minutes. But a couple of notes that I took was the guy, he pushes a concept called the employed millionaire. And you can go to his website. His website is employedmillionaire.com. Did I say that right? Employed, no, EYL, employedmillionaire.com. So anyway, he worked at a Verizon. His name is Storm Leroy. He bought real estate while he was working in Verizon. Well, no, let me kind of go through the whole thing. He got his first apartment. When he got his first apartment, he said, I don't want to pay anybody rent. I want to pay myself rent or whatever. During that time, he had a technology hustle. I guess he was selling cell phones. Back in the day, he was selling the cell phones to give you free nights and weekends or certain things like that. But early on, he was approached to buy two brownstones for about 350,000. He said years later they were for $4 million. He didn't end up buying them because he was convinced by his friends that it wasn't a good idea. He went into a whole thing about being around like-minded folks. He talks a little bit about the risk of real estate. It's not just the buy-in. You got to do so many different things, like I talked about. Uh, he kind of downplayed the whole phone business thing, but apparently one of his friends or partners got busted. He mentioned he was making about 3-4 grand a week. It's a lot of goddamn money. And then when he started working at Verizon, he was making $400 a week or a check or something like that. 1996, he bought his first brownstone for 350K. I wanted to know how you buy it. Where did you get the money to gut it out? Because he mentioned he gutted out the whole thing. He ended up telling the host later that he got a traditional loan. Once again, I would love to know how he got the down payment. Probably his job, but these are the questions you got to ask because some people have deep pockets from whether it's family, whether it's other things they do. You got to always ask those questions because how you get that money determines how good of a deal that's going to be for you. He said because he had so many challenges with the landlord, he got out from 1996 to about 2015. That's a long time. And he was approached about a concept about buying out of state properties and just collecting the rent and not dealing with tenants. So that's what I got out of it so far. So once again, like I said, I think that you must ask the questions as far as how did you get the money? But anyway, let me go into it and I'll share my thoughts, my commentary in between. So let's play that and then let's play this. So now he's talking a little bit what he's about to go into buying the out of state real estate. So let's go.
Minneapolis. I bought that property, changed my life. Like a lot of people would think that buying a property, a brownstone for about $350,000 today, which is worth almost $2 million, will be the property that changed my life. But you have to think that was 1996 buying that property. So it took over 20 years for that property to be worth what it is now.
Did you held the property?
Yeah, I still have that property now,
okay.
right? I still have that property now. But during that time, then and there, people always ask, well, that property is the one that put you over the tipping point and made you a millionaire. And I would tell them no.
Wait, hold on. Let me go. I actually went forward too far. Let me go back a little bit. That was at about 24 minutes. Let me go back to about 19 minutes. He goes into what he just talked about. Hold on.
It was all local. I had my friends that were buying properties nearby. And I said, man, I don't want to be a landlord, because even when we would have the discussion, it would be those dilemmas. So I said, man, I want to do something else in real estate. And my friend of mine, he introduced me to another friend of his that was investing in real estate out of state. He said, nah, I just buy properties and I collect rent. I said, you do what and do what and don't have to do what with who? He said, nah, I don't deal with tenants. I said, tell me more. He said, he gave me a little bit of insight, but we didn't talk too long. I said, I'm going to look myself and find out about this. So now I go to the school of Google. I'm looking up out-of-state real estate, things of that nature, 2015. Now I go to a place and I find a site called biggerpockets.com.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Bigger Pockets.
Yeah, they owe me some bread too.
Oh, no shout out to Bigger Pockets.
Yo,
I'm saying.
No shout out to that bread is free.
Hey, let me say something really quick. Google used to be a whole lot better to be able to find things. It's now, every time you Google now, there's ads and they're pushing you in one way or the other. This just goes to show, like, I talk about like Facebook and Google, because I'm a little bit older. I've been in these things when they first came around. These platforms were really what they were intended to be, a way for Facebook, a way to engage people, especially people you've known in the past. And ads took that over, whereas the people that spending the money are going to be at the top of your feeds. Same thing with Google. Back in the day, you used to search for things and you actually could find it. Now they're driving you to whoever is spending the money. So anyway, let them keep going. So it's just interesting. He says like Google. And I think about back in the day, I used to be able to find so much from Google. Now I can't find anything.
The check got to clear.
Check ain't clear yet.
You know? So I went on Bigger Pockets and I'm typing in all these things about out-of-state real estate. How does it work? And guys are really giving all the examples of how this system works, how it's built. And it's one thing that I really love about that place. They give you so much information. Real estate is this tribe. When you ask one question, everybody answers. But see, where I was going wrong with Bigger Pockets was I kept typing in questions, and there's someone, he reached out to me and said, just type in the question and hit search. Don't keep asking because somebody already asked and you look like a newbie and people know you didn't do your research. So I said, oh, okay, cool. So now I'm typing in, where's the best place to buy out-of-state real estate? How to learn more about out-of-state real estate. Now I'm getting this thread. So I noticed in the thread, which is key, there are people who are talking a lot. And I said, I'm going to reach out to one of them because they seem like they want to give a lot of information out. So I asked one question to one guy, I'm thinking about getting out-of-state real estate. What's the best place? So he hits me right back. We going back and forth. He's giving me great advice. Little did he know he would become my mentor. And this is what I mean about always ask the right questions. When I first started out, my theme was ASK, always seek knowledge. It's because my goal was to ask the right question. And by asking those right questions led me to this gentleman here giving me valuable information where he knew I wasn't just asking any question. I was trying to get to a finish line. And he loved that about me, that I would take his information, do the research. So now he gives me all this information. I'm looking for properties. I'm learning how to do numbers.
Hey, I would like to know, if I was interviewing the gentleman, I would say, how did you find that mentor? What circle, where were you at? How were you introduced to this person? Because I've read all the books, Find the Mentor, Find the Mentor, Find the Mentor. In my experience, I actually tried to force some relationships because I was told you find a mentor, find a mentor, find a mentor. And what I learned, mentors are not just going to help you. They need to get something out of it too. And unfortunately, all mentors are not good people. And I'm not saying that they need to be everything. They don't have to be your father. They don't have to be this or that. I mean, if you're looking for them to help you with real estate, that's what they should do. But I'm always curious when people say I found this mentor. I would love to know what environment were you in to find it, because I think that sometimes it's misinformation that you get to younger people, because a lot of times people that have notoriety and power, they understand that some people are looking for their help, and oftentimes they take advantage of those people. So once again, if I was interviewing, I would ask him, how did he find this mentor? I know you're probably thinking it's some things you should just know, but I think when you're talking about investing, you're talking about doing things, taking big risks like this, I think we got to dig a little deeper, ask deeper questions, because it's not that easy to just go find someone that's going to help you get to your goals.
I'm learning everything about it because there's no system like there is today.
So like the person who's listening to right now, I'm sure they're gonna be like, well, what are the questions that I'm supposed to ask? So what at that point, this is 2015, obviously, some of the things will still apply, but what are some of the questions that you're asking because you want the exact feedback?
Yeah. One of the questions I asked was, what's the best place to start with out-of-state real estate? He gave me locations. He said, here in the Midwest, you want to do this because of the good weather, the rent, the higher rents, the lower property costs, all the things that New York didn't provide. The properties were now, at this time in 2015, 800,000, 1.2, like ridiculous numbers. Yeah. And that math doesn't work if you're trying to be an investor and cash flow off a property that's $1 million. $1 million mortgage is about $10,000. The average rent is $2,000. So that's a $3,000 hole. How do you make that up? So now when you learn these numbers, you realize you need to branch out. So those were the things he was giving me. I would ask, what were the best places?
Hey, really quick, fair use. This is for educational purposes only. I hope Earn Your Leisure does not have a problem with me playing the audio of this podcast, and I'm just giving my reaction to this video. So fair use. Let me keep it going.
What were the best tools to learn how to do numbers? What were the best books? He was giving me all that information. So guys, when you're trying to get a mentor, make sure the question is how, and when he gives you the how, you go do the work and then come back showing you actually did the work, so he can know that he's not just wasting his time. That was crucial for me.
Yeah, do your research.
So when did you buy your first out-of-state property, and what state was it in?
2015. I bought a property that same year, and it was in Indianapolis. I bought that property, changed my life. Like a lot of people would think that buying a property, a brownstone for about $350,000 today, which is worth almost $2 million, will be the property that changed my life. But you have to think that was 1996 buying that property.
Hey, really quick, I would ask the question, with that brownstone you bought in 1996 that you said is worth about $2 million now, was that a primary residence or was that an investment property? I would love to know, like, what type of cash flow were you making on that early? 350,000 interest rates. I don't know how much you put down. The rents, I mean, he mentioned that he had to totally gut it out. When you talk about totally gutting it out and fixing it up, that's a lot of money. Where did that money come from? Then how much rent were you earning on this property over that? Or like I said, was this a primary residence? So these are some of the deeper questions I would ask. So let's keep it going.
So it took over 20 years for that property to be worth what it is now.
Did you held the property?
Yeah, I still have that property now,
okay.
Right? I still have that property now. But during that time, then and there, people always ask, well, that property is the one that put you over the tipping point and made you a millionaire. And I would tell them, no. You know why? Because the rent doesn't equate to the value of the home. So when someone says, oh, grandma has a house here worth $2 million, grandma can't go get a loan out on that house because she doesn't have a way to pay for the cash out of that home. The money is in the walls. So when someone like, say, grandma dies and now the family wants to decide on selling the home or keeping the home, I always give the analogy of this. I'm not mad if you sell the home. Just have something to do with the money with selling the home, because grandma wants that money to create a legacy. Because you have to think, if you're going to hold a home worth $2 million, collect $3,000 worth of rent, grandma, 3 kids to splitting $3,000 worth of rent. How far is that going to change your legacy? But if you sold a house for $2 million and now you buy more real estate, you create a trust, all those things. Now grandma's smiling down going, that's why I bought that house for $30,000 for y'all to do that. Mm-hmm. So I definitely believe in selling grandma's house with a purpose, because a lot of people can't pull the cash out. So me buying a house in Indianapolis, it was a $40,000 house. I got a loan for that house. And this is another thing I like to give people advice as I go along in the conversation, if that's okay. To get a loan on a $40,000 property, I always recommend looking at local banks in the state where the property is located. So I got a loan in that state for $40,000. That was about $8,000 down. The mortgage was $250. Section 8 was paying $850. So I'm like, yeah, I'm making like $600 a month off this property. So at the end of the year, it was a little less than 600 because I know I was making $6,000 a year from an $8,000 investment. So I'm like, man, a lot of people hear that and go, that's not a big amount. But the key isn't the amount, it's the percentage. Someone tells you you can make 80% off your money, you should look at that percentage and not how much that amount is. Someone says, give me $100, I'm gonna give you $80 every year from that $100. Why not? It's 80% off the $100. So anyway, I'm making $6,000 off the $8,000 and I go, wow, I'm making my money back. You know what? I'm at work. I'm thinking this was simple. I don't have to deal with tenants. I don't have to deal with anything else. How about I buy another one and I do this again?
All right, so there you go. I have a problem with that. So he mentioned you put 8,000 down, mortgage for 3,200. It's about $250 a month. He mentioned he's making $600 a month in profit because he did Section 8. But he said all he's doing is collecting the rent. So who is managing the property? Who's managing the tenants? What happens if there are issues with the home and they need to be fixed? Who's dealing with that? Was there any cost associated with fixing up the property? Did he have to put furniture in it? How much was that? So these are key things that people, listen, I have no problem with this brother, but I've heard this from so many people. And because I was a young, wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30, I was doing all these things blindly. So now I'm a 45-year-old man and I'm like, I'm not saying this, Storm Levy. So if you're watching my reaction, I'm not calling you bullshit, but I can smell BS. And I'm not saying you're BSing, but I would just like you to dig a little deeper because young people need to hear all of these other things that go into this process of buying and managing. But anyway, I might be jumping ahead, so let him keep going and I will provide more reaction.
Again. And in formulating that idea and that structure, I said, if I'm making $6,000 a year and I'm making $60,000 a year at work, how many properties do I need to no longer have to come to work?
So did that $6,000 that he's making, is that also deducting the property taxes? Because part of the problem with buying properties out of state is managing the upkeep. You don't know that there was taxes on the property that were owed. If he bought into a homeowners association, there's a lot of risk of the homeowners associations. If you're not doing the things up to code and up to speed, they're going to fine you. So you got to deduct that from the money that you're making. So I'm not saying he bought in the HO. I'm just saying there's a lot of different factors that go into this. So let him keep going.
10 properties. I could do that. It's either 10 properties in 10 years or retire in 30 years.
Yeah.
That sounded much better.
Yeah.
So now once I do the math on how that works, key thing that I didn't include, and I want everybody to look at this also, I'm gonna drop it, y'all pick this up. We do not value what our tax returns can do for us. We get a tax return as we treat ourselves. I said, you know what? I got $6,000 coming in. I'm getting $7,000 for my tax return. That's $15,000. Excuse me, That's $13,000.
Yep.
I just bought a property for $8,000. And now on top of that, I said, I'm going to keep $200 a month from work. So I said,
so let me ask him this. He mentioned he bought the property in Indianapolis. He put $8,000 down. He got a loan for $32,000. Remember, throughout this whole process, one constant that has to be constant is that, for the most part, I might be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you got to maintain good credit because you're getting a loan. You're not, if he were to say he was buying these properties cash, which I'm assuming that's eventually going to get to, it doesn't matter. But the fact that he's still getting loans. So I talked about real estate taxes. I talked about there's an HOA. You got to worry about that. You got to worry about the upkeep. And then the loan piece, like if anything goes sideways, you deal with some things personally. And for whatever reason, you got to borrow from that property, this property, that property, and you fall behind on your mortgage, certain things like that. There's a lot of different factors, especially when a loan is involved. So let him keep going.
Yo, if I was thinking one property a year, 10 years, I can now leave. Now I have enough to buy 2 properties a year. I could cut that time in half. I could leave work in 5 years and buy 2 properties a year. So now
In theory, he has it right. The concept, everything he's saying is right. It's totally right about buying 10 properties. If you could, you build in all the expenses. I'm not sure if he's going to go into with the tax piece, the depreciating piece, that you got to have a good accountant because they can depreciate this. You're making so much money. So in theory, you do want to buy real estate. I'm just saying you got to have a huge chunk of change to be able to manage these things. Like if something goes bad, if something doesn't go right, you got to be able to dig into that account. So you either need a line of credit, you need access to capital to be able to deal with that. If you're dealing strictly with your personal assets and you have your personal property that you live in, you have all of these things that you're doing, it gets a little hectic and it gets a little tough. So definitely in theory, this guy is on it. He's totally right. This is what you want to do. But the actual execution and all the things that go into it, that's where I kind of have a problem a little bit with some of the things that I'm hearing so far. Once again, he might clean it up and I might retract what I'm saying. But for now, that's where my issues are.
I'm going to work with a purpose. The biggest thing that we run into personally for myself is where we get caught up with not liking our job and the frustration comes in is because we don't see the exit sign. We get up and go, oh man,
Can't do this.
Yeah. So I used to get up 6:30 to have to be to work at 7. I needed every traffic light to always be on time. I was going to be late. And ask me, did I care? I didn't care. And that's a big problem because I was now giving people with the power to fire me to actually do what they want to do most than fire me. I had to readjust that thinking. And now once that happened and I started getting up at 6 o'clock, now to go over my plan because I know I was leaving, now I leave the house about 6:20. Now I get to work and now I'm happy going, yeah, I'm going to be out of here in 5 years. Yeah. And they couldn't figure it out.
I like the concept of employed millionaire in theory. The problem with being an employee for anyone is you're trading time for money, which sounds a little cliche, but it is what it is. And a lot of things have to go right for you to really, really maximize your time at the employer while you're also doing the things you want to do to become self-sufficient and do things on your own. And I don't know if this man has a family. I don't know if he has kids. I don't know if he has other responsibilities other than going out there and make money. But if you are working for someone, you do have a family, your time to be able to commit to these extra things are limited. And so once again, I'm not trying to be discouraged. I'm saying there are factors. And it's not to say that this guy isn't hitting the nail on the head. Once again, about theory, I think we have to understand that there's a bunch of factors that we have to take into consideration. So from my perspective, I'm not so inclined to, I think that it's important for you to start building something while you're working. But I think the goal is ultimately to jump out there and be on your own because once again, that time aspect is limited when you work for an employer. Now, there are different ways to do it now with the ability to work from home. But I know me, I have a lot of people that work from home. Trust me, if you're not doing your work, I know, so you can only, give a little bit to me and do your other things before I find out. And from my perspective, if you chose to be an employee and work with me, you got a job to do. So if you decide to say, I'm going to do my own thing, I'm going to clap my hands and support you. But while you're working for me, you got to work. So with that, all that being said, I'm saying there's limited time to be able to commit to these other things when you're still an employee. So I love the concept employed millionaire, but it's hard. And anyway, let him keep going.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling going to work. So here's the thing though, right? You're in Brooklyn.
Yes.
The property's in Indiana.
Uh-huh.
So who's managing? Are you at that point having a property manager? Because I know one of the things is that you don't even see the properties.
No, I've never seen it.
You've never even seen the property. So how did you, I mean, you're buying it, but you're not seeing it. So who's managing the property? Do you have property management at this time? Or is that like a lesson that you have to learn during this process?
Well, that's the great thing about having a mentor, 100%. I have a property manager that oversees the property. right? And the key thing with this, when buying a property, sight unseen, tenant not being seen, because that's another thing also. I buy properties that are tenant occupied. I get it more.
We're going to get there. Yeah, we're going to get there.
I'm going to stay in the zone. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So the property manager, the key thing about that is that's when the mindset changes. It all starts with the mindset. You can't build any type of strong structure if your foundation isn't correct. So once I have the mindset of understanding that I don't want to be a landlord anymore, I don't want to see properties, I want to delegate duties to someone, because property management only wants 10%. So that means I'm making 90%. They're doing 100% of the work, and I'm keeping 100% of my time. The key thing was just finding the right property.
Once again, in theory, it sounds amazing, and I'm not saying he's not doing it, he's not crushing it. So hand clap to you, Storm Levy. I'm not saying that. I actually have someone really close to me. They've been in this game for a long time, 30, 40 years. They bought properties for cash. They own them free and clear. And one of the things that I have conversations with them all the time, and I say, why don't you get a property manager? Because one thing about them, they're really good. They know how to fix up the things because that's their line of work. The wife that's involved, she actually goes to the courthouse. She enjoys doing that. You got to remember, unfortunately, when you take on this responsibility of being a landlord, you do got to evict sometimes. You do got to go and try to fight for your money. So a big part of being a landlord and running multiple real estate properties is that there's a legal piece to it. And from their perspective, they mentioned that a lot of the people that are their peers that own a lot of properties, they hire attorneys, and they say that's not a good thing because you're losing so much money with the attorney fees and certain things like that. So they represent themselves. And another trick, they actually do it under a sole proprietorship. And there's the reason why they do it like that is because there's rules in the state that they do it in that you actually get more benefit from being a sole proprietor than the LLC. So that's a whole different show, and I can't really speak to that, but I know a little bit from them telling me. But my point is, the spread is so tiny. I mean, when you get a property manager, and the assumption is that you're getting a good property manager that's not going to take advantage, because a lot of these property managers manage multiple properties. So I would love to, if I was interviewing, I would ask the question, how did you find that property manager? Did you interview 10 people and found 3 and then you picked 1? Did you just know somebody and they did it? Property managing is a hard thing. And like I said, for people to make money in that, he just said it, they're getting 10%, I'm getting 90%. Like, what's going to make me continue to do that business and do that work if I'm making so little and you making so much more, unless I do it with so many different people? And if I do it with so many different people, it's going to have to be a legitimate business for me. So I got to handle staff. So there's a lot of factors to that. So I would ask the question, how did you find them? How many people did you interview? Did you go to a website? How did you do that? Because property managers, none of this works if you don't have a good property manager. So let's keep it going.
A management company. They place the tenants. They deal with evictions. They deal with fixing. All I had to do was concentrate on my plan, which would be allowing me to leave work in 5 years.
Oh, I did. I'm not sure if I said it, but where I was going with the people I know that's really close to me that do it, they don't deal with the property manager. 1, they don't trust him. 2, it's too expensive. So I appreciate him saying they do all these things, evict, find the tenants, fix up the property, all these type of things. But I know a lot of people, it's very hard to find it. So I would have liked him to go a little deeper, how he found this one that he has. Is it one for all his property? Do we have multiple ones? Does he just have magic that anytime he finds he runs an ad for property manager, bam, he gets one and they're great? Because I know a lot of people that go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 property managers because it's such a hard job. So let it go.
So finding the right property management company is always best to do that and to expand your horizon. How will you be able to grow what you're trying to do if you're trying to do all the work? I believe that you can't be the janitor, you can't be the electrician, you can't be the plumber, and you can't be the CEO if you want to take your company to the next level.
I agree with that. Leverage is everything. So once again, I hope you guys don't think that I'm disagreeing with this gentleman. Obviously, he knows what he's doing. So this isn't anything against Storm Levy. I swear to you. It's just I'm speaking for the people that's listening to this, and they're going to try to do it themselves. You gotta be a little bit more specific in terms of all of the things and the risks. Because once again, I was in those shoes, and when it comes down on you, it comes down on you, and it hurts. So
because all you have to do is look from the seat of a CEO in actual company, understand his value comes in by delegating duties and overseeing the mission. And his mission is to grow the company by having assets that are making money. And that's where I get into buying my assets that are tenant occupied.
Right. So let me get these states right. And if I miss one, forgive me, okay?
No doubt.
Because I didn't even have Indiana. I got Alabama. I got Wisconsin, city of Milwaukee. We got Georgia, Florida, Ohio.
Yes.
Did I miss any?
Indiana, Ohio. I think that's it. I'm gonna be honest. The location doesn't matter to me, right? Because the entire United States is my marketplace.
Right.
So I don't get caught up where it's at. I only get caught up in what that asset is making.
Well, I'll bring up the states because I'm trying to figure out, is the property manager handling all those properties?
There we go. No, you have a property manager for each state. Excuse me for that.
Oh, see, that's what I was going with. Yeah.
You need a property management for each state. And the key thing is you become a property manager. We can touch that topic later. You become the property manager, but you have a property management company for each state to run those properties.
Got you.
So how did you find your first property, and how do you find property? If you're not actually physically going to these locations, how do you find these properties?
Man, you guys come with good questions.
So the problem with that statement about, well, he answered my question as far as does he have different property managers. Once again, I would have dug a little bit deeper about the property manager aspect. Finding the properties is easy. Well, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easy. I would like to know the property manager because once again, there has to be a process in how you find that because once again, there's a lot of bad property management companies out there. And all it takes is a bad property management for the investment to go south. In addition, each state has landlord laws that are different. DC is totally different from Florida. So you got to make sure you not only have a property manager for that state, they got to be very knowledgeable. So it's not as simple as I need a property manager and done with it. You got to do some research and interview and ask questions and figure out in terms of what is their know-how, what is their legal team like to be able to deal with the issues that you got to deal with. In DC, it's damn near impossible to get people out. I mean, think about COVID. It just happened. Like so many landlord laws, tenant laws changed. And so you got to be abreast with that. So if you got a property here, does he do a meeting weekly where he gets the new updates in terms of what the laws are changing in each respective state? So yeah, I think that part of this interview, if it didn't, and once again, I'm jumping ahead, I didn't listen to the whole thing. I reacted as I'm listening to it. But I would love to talk a little bit more about the property management piece. So I'm going to let this go a little bit further.
Let them roll out. Let them roll. How do I find properties? The key thing for me is the place is simple sites like Realtor, Zillow, Trulia, Craigslist, Facebook groups. All those places you're looking for properties. Now, there's this thing where there's a shortage of houses, there's a shortage of properties, there's a shortage. And the reason why there isn't a shortage in my space, because I'm not looking to buy a property as a homeowner. Biggest amount of people who are looking for homes are homeowners. The next group are people who want to find distressed properties that they can add value and do work to it. But when I search for properties, I go into the search bar and I search for tenant occupied properties, Section 8 properties. How many people are searching that?
So he said Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia. These are sites you can Google right now to find properties. From my experience, and I don't know, I'm not in the real estate game at the moment, but it's kind of hard to find specific information about real estate properties using these mainstream Google. I mean, these sites that's on Google. I wonder, does he have a paid account? Are these the only sites that he's using? Because I know when I was a realtor, there was way more access you got from the Matrix MRS system. I don't know what it's called now. I mean, I can pretty much pinpoint deals. This is how I sold so many properties, is because I had access to tax information. I could see what was distressed. I'm not sure you can do that by a simple Google search, a free Google search. So I hope he goes into a little bit more about, was he paying for this or paying for that? But anyway, let me keep going.
Very few. So I have a whole litany of properties that are just there for me because the mindset is I'm looking.
And so I also would like to know, when you say things like the United States is my market, that's very risky. I mean, in my experience for making money, whether it's real estate, anything, like you got to be pretty specific. When you're kind of all over the place, it's hard to kind of become really good at your area expertise. So I'm not really liking that statement in terms of the whole market is the whole US is my market. And then as the guys are asking them, how do you find properties? I would love for him to pinpoint, I'm looking for a specific type of property. For example, the same couple that I talked about that I'm really close with that has a really thriving real estate, I would say empire, is that they target a lot of properties that are distressed, meaning they've been burnt down, and then they build on top of it because that's their expertise. They have construction experience, they have electrical experience, they have the workers, they have things like that. Like, and I'm not saying they don't buy other types of properties, but they focus on that specific one because they know the spreads, the numbers, or what it's going to take to be able to acquire that property and then, like I said, build on top of it. So I want to hear him talk a little bit about a specific type of property that he looks for when he's searching for properties.
Looking for a home to place a tenant. I'm looking for a home to place a tenant. But if you think, for me as a CEO, where I'm looking to buy an asset that's making money. So I'm looking for businesses. It just so happened those businesses are properties.
Okay, he said that he's looking for properties that's already tenant owned. So I apologize. So let him keep going.
And the tenants aren't those. So I look for properties that are Section 8, preferably Section 8. And the reason why is because government's never late on rent. Government's never late on rent. During COVID, when I first was doing this structure, a lot of people would say, man, I don't want to deal with Section 8 properties, man. They do this, they do that. But I tell them that in these other states where people are not on top of each other and things of that nature, it's more of a laid back. You know, it's not like you have to come home, the elevator's broke, you're walking up the steps, 30 houses, everybody's on top of each other. No, these people going to work, they may need assistance, they may not need assistance, but they're taking care of those properties. So that's a moneymaker for me. And when I was buying those, people really, like I said, was looking at it as a negative. But when COVID hit, and a lot of my investor friends were not getting rent, and we would have these discussions, and they would go, Storm, how you doing? Go, I can't relate to y'all. Like, I can't, because I'm still getting $15,000 a month in rent continuously.
So Section 8, I know VA is something that you spoke about, and long-term residents.
Yes.
Talk about the importance of that, right? Because I mean, one of the things I heard you speak about it was rent rolls. I haven't heard people really talk about rent rolls, but now when you think about it, right, that's the proven.
Hey, really quick, one thing about Section 8, it's not that simple. People do destroy properties. And once again, there has to be that spread that you have the funds to fix it up. Not only do you have to have the funds to pick it up, you got to have the relationships of the individuals to go out and do the work. And that's relationship building. So you have a relationship with the builders, the property managers, and maybe his property managers does all of that. But you have to understand that there, you know, for every great Section 8 experience you had, you're going to have a few bad ones. So I would have wished he would have talked about it's not all, you know, party, you know, there are some bad experiences. So how do you deal with things when it does go south? So anyway, let me let this go for a little bit more, and then I'm gonna wrap this up.
Method, right? We're seeing people paying. This is they're productive. They haven't been late. How important that is, because I think that's a step that I don't think I've heard anybody really talk about when we talk about real estate.
Yes, sir. And I'll take credit for that. Don't worry. I'm gonna pick that up. I'll take that definitely, 100%. Because, like I said, it's like buying a company. So if I'm looking for a long-term tenant, preferably they've been living there over a year and a half, and then I request a rent roll. A rent roll strictly states and shows how long they've been paying rent and if it's been on time, if it's been late. So if I'm looking at this asset and somebody says, here's the payment structure from this asset, they've never defaulted on a payment for an entire year and a half. Why am I not going to buy it? If I buy it, what, are they going to stop making payments? So now I'm like, yeah, I'm buying that company. I'm buying that asset because the money has been proven.
I would love to know, I definitely heard the concept of rent rolls. One, with rent rolls, how accurate is the information from the landlord owner, the owner of that property. And then if you have such a good tenant, I would have liked for him to talk about what are you seeing are the motivations for the individuals selling the property. So if they have this property, these people are paying Section 8, VA, whatever it may be, what are their motivations? Because I would like to know, how do you find these deals? Because once again, individuals I know of, experiences I've had, if I'm making money, people paying rent, I'm probably going to keep that property. Obviously stuff happens, but anyway, maybe that's the wrong perspective to look at, but just had something I was thinking about as he was talking. So let me let it go a little bit further.
And it also proves another thing. Either they work city, state, federal, or government jobs, and they weren't impacted by COVID. Whatever job they have is needed. So I really want that tenant. And I give this example to a lot of my mentees that I teach. I say, if you want to buy a property, I have this nice shiny object, brand new renovated property. You can get $1,500 in rent. You just got to go put a tenant in there. Or there's this other property, somebody's been living in there. They've been paying $1,000 a month. The property is doing well. They've never been late for 2 years. Which one would you want? You would go find the tenant. Now you may lose 1 month of rent, 2 months of rent till you find a new tenant in there. Then you get a tenant. You don't really know the history. You don't really know if their job could withstand a COVID situation or a downturn, or someone who's been proven that you got $12,000 coming every single year with a mortgage of about $500. Which one you want?
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I have things to do. Once again, definitely check out Earn Your Leisure's Becoming a 9-to-5 Millionaire, Secrets of the Wealthy in Real Estate Investing. I believe that they are going to go into trust. They're going to go into how to make money in trust. And I'm definitely looking forward to hear that part and give my reaction to that. So far, Storm Levy's killing it. Once again, I'm just giving you my perspective from my experience. I'm not trying to be a gloom and doomer or discourage you from doing it. I'm just letting you know, hey, there's other questions that should be asked. There's certain things that you have to understand when you play this real estate game. If you don't have all of the things lined up, it could be a nightmare. He talked about it. You didn't hear that part. I fast forwarded from that part where he's talking about, he didn't like landlording so much that he got out of it from 96 to 2015. So is landlording that bad that you didn't want to do it? But anyway, I got to go. My dog is barking. I think the plumber's here to fix some things in the house. So anyway, I hope y'all have a good day. I'm going to do a reaction to the rest of this video later today or tomorrow. So take care. Peace.